Hi, I'm Mariah Shackle, and my lesson is a first grade math lesson, and the purpose of it is to help first grade students understand that each digit in a two-digit number represents either ones or tens, and we're going to do this by completing activities together, where I'm going to show examples, and activities where they do it themselves to get their own practice. Good morning, class. Today in math we're going to be learning about place value. To start off, we will be watching this video to show exactly what we will be learning. So in this video that I will be showing them, I'm not going to show it because it's like 4 minutes long, but it basically just explains how each number is made up of digits that hold a special value within it, so like the ones place and the tens place. And it explains what digits are, 1 through 9, and how if they're in each place, like what their value is, I guess. The video also explains how counting is easier when you group things in bundles of 10. So it basically explains to them that if you count by tens and then the leftovers as ones, it's way easier than counting each one by ones. So after the video, I will start off by saying okay class, show me how smart you all are. We're going to count to tens all together, and we would count by ones first just to activate their prior knowledge. So it would be, I would start off, so it'd be okay class, we're gonna start off counting by ones. You can join me when you feel comfortable, and I'd start off 1, 2, 3, and then they'd all join. After we counted to 10, I would explain that we were going to count by tens to 120, because in a previous lesson they would have already learned how to count to 120 by ones, not by tens. So I would ask if they're comfortable with doing that, and if they know how, I'd be okay, join in, we're going to count to tens. We're going to count by tens to 120, and then I'd start off 10, 20, 30, and they would join in as we go on. After that, I would have class sets of the base 10 blocks, the little blocks, just so they can visualize it. I would pass one out to each kid, as well as a ones and tens chart, which would basically just look like this, the tens column and the ones column. So they'd get that, and they would, after that, I would go back to the projector, and I would also have a set of the base 10 blocks, and just to check for their understanding, I would be okay class, each of you hold up your 10 blocks. So they would hold up the long piece, because that's the 10 block, and then I'd be okay. I'd make sure that everybody understood which one was which, and then I'd have them hold up the ones blocks. And then after that, I would say something okay, now we're going to practice by recognizing the value of digits of each number. So on the projector, I would have my own thing, and I would call out a random number 24, and I'd put the 2 blocks and then the 4 ones, just to make sure, to give them an example of how that activity works. And I would make sure that each one understood that 20 is 2 tens, and so on. After I did a few examples with them, I would walk around the class, and instead of doing it on the projector, I would have them do it themselves. And while I'm walking around, I would be okay, the next number is 36, and they would do their 36, and I'd walk around and make sure everybody had it correct, or I'd say, check your partner, make sure they did it correctly, just to make sure that they all got it. And that's just kind of the opening activity that I would do with them. After that, I'd like to check their understanding with thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs to the side, their take on how much they understood from that activity. Then I would go on to our next activity, okay class, now that we've got some practice, we're gonna play a game. And hopefully when they hear game, they'll be a little bit more excited. This game is called Place Value Roll. I would hand out their supplies, which would be their worksheet for the game and dice, and then I'd tell them to get out a pencil. The worksheet would be something like this, and they would roll one dice. I'd explain the rules. So you're gonna roll the dice, and the first one you roll is gonna be the digit in your tens place. So they'd write down the tens place. Then they'd roll the second dice, and then be the ones place. And then they'd draw it. They would understand that, and I would tell them that the long one is the tens, and then the squares are the ones, so they'd be the smaller ones. So I would probably do an example on the projector so that they can see exactly how to do it. And then after that, I would walk around the class as they're doing it themselves, and if they need assistance, I will help them along the way. Also, I would announce that, like, if the kids that understand it well and are able to do it quickly, if they finish first, they can either like flip their paper over and continue doing it, or they can help their partners if the partners are needing some help, just so that they're not sitting there bored. Once everyone is finished, I would check their understanding again with the thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs to the side, just to take like a mental note of how they're doing with that and if I need to spend more time on it or not. And then for the closing, I would, depending on how much time we have, if I didn't have time to do it in class, I would send it home for homework. But this is where I would assess them and just basically see if I need to spend more time on it and how they're doing. This is just this is what I would use. It's 8 questions, and it's basically just, it has the tens blocks and the ones, and they just have to write how many tens, how many ones, and then the number. So it's basically like the dice, except it's already there for them. And that's it.